How's it going, everyone? Data here, and welcome back to NHL 23. Today, running through a 2022-23 season simulation here in the game to see who does the game think is going to win the Stanley Cup, which teams are going to make the postseason, which teams will miss, which players will lead the league in different scoring categories, and so forth. I'm super excited to get into franchise mode. We can't start just yet until the newest EA roster update comes out, because that has a lot of players who have not, rookies who have not played a game yet in the NHL. They won't be in until they play a game, such as, just off the top of my head, I know David Jiricek's not in the game yet, Dylan Guenther's not in the game yet, a lot of rookies like that. So once they play their first game, the next roster update, I think it should be out in about a week. Then we can get franchise mode started. But until then, we will be mixing up the content here on the channel. Today, doing the full 2022-23 simulation on the NHL 23 simulation engine. NHL 23 EA, they did their own simulation, but honestly, I don't know if that included trades, did it include injuries, how were players placed in the lineup, stuff like that. So I like doing it this way, where I can really see it myself, and I can get, even though it'll never be perfect in EA land, we can try and control as much as possible. So trades will be turned off, injuries will be left on. So injuries are realistic, as those will happen no matter what, but I don't want to have crazy trades happening that would never happen. So trades will be off, injuries will be turned on to try and keep it as kind of realistic as possible. Superstar, if we do go in, head coach take care of the lines, all that kind of stuff. We're not going to be touching anything, just pure simulation. Also, the rosters are fully updated. EA didn't have that when they did their simulation. Their rosters were from like mid-September. This roster is updated as to the minute of recording right now. Like Sonny Milano on the Washington Capitals updated. Everything is in, all the extensions, all the free agents who were signed, all that is fully taken care of. Now, the only other thing that I'm going to do is make sure that players who are not in the lineup are in the lineup. I wanted to go through and edit every single team to give them the lineup that they actually have in the real world, but unfortunately it just wasn't possible with too many missing, well, not too many missing players, but more due to injury. For example, on the Boston Bruins, you have McAvoy and Marchand both out. Am I going to keep them out until December and go back and fix it? Like, there's too many small details. I'm just going to keep everyone in the lineup. The things I will change are, like, over on the Seattle Kraken, you have Matty Beniers, who's probably going to win the Calder as a healthy scratch right now. So stuff like that I will change. I'll go through every team in the NHL and just make sure the right players are playing, the players who should be playing are playing. But aside from that, I'm going to let the simulation engine take care of it. We'll do the simulation. We have control over all 32 teams, so we can hop into the postseason and go through it slowly. And that's about it. So scroll down in the comments, get your prediction in. Don't hit comment yet, but write down your predictions, your team of who you think is going to win the Stanley Cup, your surprise playoff miss, perhaps. Get all your predictions in. Wait until you see the end, and then post your comments saying, wow, I was really right, wow, I was really wrong. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing down there. Who can predict what EA is going to give us today? So let me go through all the lines and make sure we're ready to go. All right, so that's all taken care of. The more I went through the teams, the more I realized how impossible it would be to make things exactly 100% realistic. There are some players who are just injured for a little bit, like, I don't know, Nick Schmaltz on the Coyotes, or Patrick Laine, who's out for 3 to 4 weeks on the Blue Jackets. But I did make sure that for players who are out longer term, I'm talking like until Christmas, I went ahead and took out Gabriel Landeskog. I went ahead and took out Brad Marchand, Charlie McAvoy, Max Pacioretty, Anthony Duclair. But for players who are out long term, like let's say Sean Couturier and Ryan Ellis, I removed them completely and they will not be coming back. So although things in EA land are always going to be things in EA land, like Tyler Seguin's going to go point per game, Patty Kane's probably going to carry the Blackhawks to a second place finish in the NHL. Although those things are out of our control, this is probably the most realistic simulation that you could get on NHL 23. I did make other changes, like for example, Mason McTavish, he's on the 4th line. In the real world, he's playing on the 1st line. So I did go ahead and make a fair amount of changes just to reflect the real world. Now we're going to go ahead and simulate to around the halfway point of the season. Let's get a game in here against the Seattle Kraken. Let's just see the Anaheim Ducks, just to see a little bit of how the slow sim looks like. First period, 2-1 Ducks. Adam Henrique, Ryan Strome, there we go. Second period, 2-2. And third period, the Ducks take it with Trevor Zegras scoring the game-winning goal. And Matty Beniers, who was a healthy scratch on Seattle. I had to go in and put him in the lineup. Stuff like that, you know, so EA's simulation, who knows what happened in their simulation with their September rosters and players playing who won't even be there. This will probably be the closest thing to the most realistic simulation possible, and I say that with a huge grain of salt, so let's check in on it around the halfway point. So around the halfway point, there are definitely some interesting things around here. Toronto leading the NHL at the moment with a record of 39-3 through 42 games. The Lightning are just a couple points behind with 2 games in hand. The Ducks are up there. The Flyers somehow with no Couturier or Ellis are 22-13-6. Really weird things out there. But down the list through the teams in the NHL, we see at the bottom, of course, the Coyotes, Red Wings, Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, Canadians. All right, that's a bit more realistic. That's what we like to see. Maybe not if you're a fan of those teams, but a bit more realistic. Teams like the Bruins now have McAvoy and Marchand back in the lineup, so they should have a stronger second half. But at the around the halfway point, here's how the league is looking. The league's point leaders, we see Sid the Kid, Sidney Crosby, 54 points in 40 games on the year. Love to see that. Malkin with 50, Matthews, Marner, and Pavelski all with 47. Down the list here, Pastrnak, Stamkos, Jason Robertson, newly signed to that contract. Great to see that. Nate McKinnon, John Tavares, Rantanen, Eichel with the Vegas Golden Knights. Ryan Hartman, probably the most surprising. You're having a big season once again with the Minnesota Wild, 42-40 at the moment. And goalies in the NHL, looking at who's really having good numbers. See, Peterson has a lot of wins, but not great numbers. Best goalie probably in the league right now, Andre Vasilevsky, by quite a bit. Blackwood, Ottinger, Kemper, Marachik doing some miracles with the Chicago Blackhawks. Let's get the rest of the season simulated and check in on how things finish off for 2022-23. The 82-game season has now come to an end. Let's go through each division and see which teams made the playoffs while which teams missed the playoffs. In the Atlantic Division, we see the Maple Leafs, Lightning, and Bruins all making it. The Senators finish above the Panthers, or I guess with the same amount of points but more ROWs. 38, 38, and 6. Tough year for Florida. Honestly, they were riddled by injuries. I noticed when I went to add Duclair back around December, they were riddled with injuries, but tough year for Florida. Detroit, Buffalo, and of course Montreal finishing at the bottom. The other Eastern Conference division into the Metropolitan, we see the Penguins, Flyers, Capitals, Devils, and Hurricanes just making it in. The Rangers miss out. The Islanders miss out. I think the biggest surprise definitely is to see the Flyers making it. Wow, 5 teams in the Metro, not what you would have expected at all. And the Penguins win that division. Wow. Over to the West now, the Central Division. We see the Wild, Avalanche, Predators, Jets, and Blues all making it. Stars just missing out, and the Blackhawks came back down to earth. The Coyotes finishing. Actually, they were never too high to begin with, just that Peter Marachik was doing well. And the Arizona Coyotes finishing at the bottom. Last team to make it in over in the Pacific, we see the Ducks, Kings, and Golden Knights as the Kraken. Ooh, that's a big surprise. The Flames not making it, and even the Oilers. Oh my goodness, the Flames and the Oilers both missing out on the postseason. A stronger Western Conference, as in the West, the teams went from 108 to 90 points, and in the East, they went from 112 to 84. Interesting. So in the entire NHL, President's Trophy going to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Anaheim Ducks finishing second in the NHL. My goodness. And at the bottom of the league, we see the Arizona Coyotes, the Canadians, the Blackhawks, as expected. Just where are the Flyers? Who would have thought that they would be at the bottom too? When it came to the point scoring, unfortunately, another year of players not really simulating as well as they would have in the real-world NHL. I would have had to set the scoring to high, but I don't think you can change the scoring settings in season mode. Would have to been in franchise mode. But regardless, Steven Stamkos wins the Art Ross with a fully healthy 82-game season. We see the top scorers were the ones who played 82 games. 104 points for him. The lead goal scorer in the NHL is Patty Kane with 52 goals on the year. Ovi 46, Matthews 45. But just looking at the rest of the points here down the list, we'll see Joe Pavelski. Any surprise names? Johnny Gaudreau doing well in his first year in Columbus. Patty Kane, of course. Matthews, Kaprizov, McKinnon. We see Claude Giroux over on the Ottawa Senators going point per game. Troy Terry, 30 and 50 with the Ducks. Matty Barzal with that new contract. Zegras, Eichel a big year in Vegas. Kopitar is the first guy who has points despite being injured with like 77 in 76 there. David Perron, big year in Detroit, 75. And let's see, over to the D-men, the defenseman, is Roman Josi scoring 73 points on the season, Cale Makar with 71, Doughty 65, Hughes, Hedman, and Fox all with 64. And before we get to the goaltenders, I want to see rookie skaters. I also want to see some other categories, sometimes other things that interest all of you ladies and gentlemen. Leading the league in ice time, Adam Fox averaging 25-27 per night, leading the league in that regard. Most hits in the league going to Tage Thompson with 167. Most blocked shots going to Ben Sherratt with 146. Most giveaways in the league. Congratulations to Nikolai, is it Kinizov, at 123 giveaways. Most takeaways going to Austin Matthews at 138. Wow, well done. Most fights in the NHL this season, Ryan Reeves at 19, Kyle Clifford at 12, and that's just about it for all of those stats. Looking at the rookie skaters in the NHL, we see Owen Power scored 38 points on the year. I think some of the coaches reverted some of their lines. Like Matty Beniers played all 82. That's great, but I doubt he was playing second line if he averaged 14-27 per night, which was still decent, but a 33-point season from the rookie on Seattle. McTavish, 31. Kravtsov, Johnson, Pinto, Perfetti, Quinn, a lot of other names like that. But Owen Power leading the way in points with 38. He averaged 20-49 per night. Now, goalies in the NHL. I will admit the one mistake I made was not taking out Robin Lehner. I'm not sure if that made a huge difference because you're seeing that like Cal Peterson. If there's any position that doesn't matter, it seems to be the goalie. Because if Cal Peterson can still get a ton of wins, and let's see who else was getting a ton of wins. Philip Grubauer at an 83 overall. Ratchet can get 26 at an 81. Elvis, he gets 28. Cam Talbot, 28. If they can get those types of wins, maybe Vegas would have done a little bit worse. But I don't think putting in Thompson over Lehner actually would have changed a lot. It's unfortunate that I realized it a bit too late. I've literally spent hours and hours and hours on this roster, and that's the one thing I missed, so I do apologize for that. But leading the league in wins was Cal Peterson at 44 wins as an 84 overall. Not great numbers, though. Looking at minimum 40 games played, the best save percentage in the league went to Andrei Vasilevsky at a 914, and best goals against average of 2.52. Was that also the best? Yes, it was. So Vasilevsky looks like a Vezina year for him, despite only getting 35 wins in 60 games played. A lot of games going to Brian Elliott, I suppose. So your round one matchups in the 2023 postseason, we have Avalanche Predators, rematch of last year, Minnesota and Winnipeg, LA, Vegas, Anaheim, St. Louis. Then over in the East, you have Flyers versus Caps. Wow. Penguins, Devils, Lightning, Bruins, and Hurricanes taking on the Maple Leafs. So I'll check back in with you on the playoff tree after round number one. After round number one, the Flyers, without Couturier and without Ellis, win in 5 games over the Capitals. The Penguins beat the Devils in 5, Lightning win in 6, and the Maple Leafs also making it out of the first round, winning in 6. You know it's EA land when that's happening, right? Just kidding. Avalanche sweep the Predators once again. Wild take down the Jets in 7. Vegas upset LA in 5 games. And the Ducks take down the Blues in 6. So the favorite wins in every round aside from the Kings and the Golden Knights. And now we see mini Colorado, Anaheim, Vegas, Pittsburgh and Philly battle Pennsylvania, and Toronto, Tampa for round number 2. In round number 2, the Vegas Golden Knights continue their underdog run as they take down the Ducks in 7 games. The Avalanche win in 5. Then over in the East, the Penguins win the Battle of Pennsylvania in 7, ending the Flyers' crazy run, and the Lightning beat the Maple Leafs in 7, ending Toronto's hopes. So the Eastern Conference Final will be Tampa versus Pittsburgh, and the Western Conference Final will be Vegas versus Colorado. After the conference finals, we see that the Stanley Cup Final in 2023 will be between the Colorado Avalanche and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The exact same final that the EA simulation had when they did their own simulation. Not a single series was the same aside from Colorado and Nashville in round number 1, but we have the same Stanley Cup final of the Avalanche and the Penguins as Pittsburgh took down Tampa in 7 and Colorado took down Vegas in 6. So now we can take control of either the Penguins or the Avalanche, doesn't really matter. We'll go ahead and simulate through these games a bit more slowly to see the Stanley Cup final between Colorado and Pittsburgh. First period, 1-0 Pittsburgh, Ryan Poehling. Second period, 3-3. Third period, and 6-4 big big comeback for the Avalanche as they win game number 1 with a big second and third period, scoring those 6 goals after a scoreless first. So up 1-0 in the Stanley Cup final. On to game 2. Actually, we'll simulate as the home team each time to make it fair. Colorado Avalanche at home for game 2. First period 1-0 for the Avalanche. Second period 2-0. Third period 4-1 victory. The Avalanche win both games at home and are up 2-0 headed to Pittsburgh. At PPG Paints Arena now, the Penguins are down 2-0 in this series, and they'll want to win the games at home to make it a best of 3, but it won't be easy. First period 0-0, second period 1-0 Avalanche, and third period 4-1 Avalanche. Yikes, Crosby scoring the lone goal, and now the Penguins could get swept by the Avalanche here in game number 4, as the Avalanche have won decidedly in all 3 games, outscoring the Penguins 14-6, is it? Game 4 in Pittsburgh, where the Avalanche could sweep their way to back-to-back Stanley Cups here. First period, 1-1. Second period, still 1-1. Third period action. Now let's go a bit more slowly as the Stanley Cup could be clinched. Shots being led by the Penguins, 22-17 at the moment, around the halfway mark. Power play, Pittsburgh goes nowhere as we're past the halfway point. Another power play for Pittsburgh, nowhere once more with the final 5 minutes now. Shots still in the Penguins' favor, 2 minutes left, and we are headed to overtime. Oh, and in overtime, Alex Newhook scores the winner. And the Colorado Avalanche are your 2023 Stanley Cup champions, winning the Stanley Cup in back-to-back years, 2022 and 23. So there's where our simulation differs from the EA simulation. Colorado takes it in 4 games, sweeping out the Pittsburgh Penguins. Gabriel Landeskog gets the Conn Smythe trophy. We'll see his stats later as these aren't extremely accurate, but the captain winning the Conn Smythe for the Avalanche. And here comes the captain once more to raise the Stanley Cup. Big handshake with Gary. Second year in a row that he receives the cup. Big smiles, big pictures, put the fireworks, and raise that Stanley Cup. I'm seeing that unfortunately this thing is glitched here. Who should hoist the cup next? Down, 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 down. It won't let you choose. And I choose. I'm trying to go down to Eric Johnson. Nope, and it clicks Devon Tays. I never clicked anything but down on my controller, but I never press X at all. My right hand is even on the controller, but it chooses the wrong player and it doesn't let me scroll through them. So already another glitch that I'm seeing. Unfortunately, every video has to include one, but there you go. So then checking out the awards, we see the Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup, President's Trophy to the Maple Leafs, Campbell, Wales, all that good stuff. Individual awards, Stamkos winning the Art Ross and the Hart Trophy. James Norris going to Cale Makar, despite Roman Josi having more points. Lady Byng to David Pastrnak. Calder to Mason McTavish, also a bit surprising. Conn Smythe to Landeskog, we'll see his points in a moment. Vezina goes to Vasilevsky. Jennings to Jussi Saros. Masterton to Kinezov, despite having the league lead in, giveaways? There you go. Selke to Barkov, and Ted Lindsay to Stamkos, and Maurice Richard to Patty Kane. And here are the points through the entire postseason. Crosby had 19 and 23, point 19 and 20, but Landeskog going point per game, 19 in 19. He wins the Conn Smythe. I'd also love to go through each of the 32 teams and see who led in the scoring, who fell apart, stuff like that. But for each of the 32 teams, that would take a bit too long. But I really want to see the Flyers. No one had more than 56 points. This team somehow, I don't know how they won all those games. I am blown away by the Flyers in this simulation. Carter Hart, what happened over here? Not even the craziest numbers from Carter Hart. Great from Felix Sandstrom, but I don't know how the Flyers did it. They made the postseason and gave the Penguins a run for their money. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Colorado Avalanche are your 2023 Stanley Cup champions. We went through all the awards, the scoring, the teams. I'm sure there's so much more we could go through. All the little details, records that may have been broken, going through the stats of every single team. But just a little overview of how the league may pan out here in EA land. If anything, I'll be curious to see how the Penguins do this season. But we already know that the Flyers, the Coyotes, the Canadiens, the Blackhawks, very likely the teams at the bottom of the league. But the Penguins and the Ducks, two very surprising teams in this simulation. So thank you for following along. If you want to see more NHL 23 franchise mode content as well as career simulations and much, much more, be sure to check out the channel. Leave a like if you enjoyed this simulation, and of course subscribe so that you won't miss out on any more of the content that comes your way. Also check out the Discord server link in the description and leave your comments with all those thoughts on what you saw here in this video. Thank you very much for taking the time to enjoy, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next one.